I got my regular clicker.
I forced it.
Let's go! What's up? What's up? That's my Tony Robbins move right there. Yes. You know, Gil called me yesterday. You know, we have to decide what kind of message we want to give you guys every single month. And I told Gil, we need a spiritual shift. You know, we've been stuck in this paper, and everybody just focused on the wrong things. But we need a spiritual shift. I had a meeting with my team this week, and I told Gil, I was like, I think this was the best meeting that I've ever had because I was looking for a spiritual shift. So today I'm going to talk to you about what dreams look like. Okay? So about a month ago, I was in a place that I rarely go. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever actually quite been in this place. And it was a very dark place. I was in a dark place. I was in a dark place mentally. I was in a dark place spiritually. My boy called me up. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm in the darkness right now. I was literally in my room, in the condo with no windows, in the middle of the day. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. I felt like crying all the time. I was like, I told Mike the other day when we met up, I said, you know, I'm not sure if it was it, but I think this is what depression feels like. It actually made me more compassionate. Like I felt like, oh man, anybody who's going through this, man, I'm praying for you. Right there. Now the details of why I got here are irrelevant, but I'm gonna tell you how I got here. So I remember going into a Tony Robbins event, and he said the key to all suffering is this concept of less, loss, and never. This idea that I did something or somebody did something to me that means I'm gonna get less. This idea that I did something to somebody or somebody did something to me, which means that I lost something that I will never get back. Or that I did something or somebody did something to me and I'm never gonna have it again. And this is a dark, dark place to be. Now, if you're a spiritual person and you go to church and stuff, they always talk about the enemy, right? But I don't like how they phrase, you know, most people in my mind have this cartoonish, like, feel to the enemy, right? So we don't take it serious, but there is an enemy, right? But here's what you got to know about the enemy. The enemy has already been defeated. The enemy is a loser, but anybody who loses the game, what do? They know they can't win the game, so they're going to try to destroy you. That's what they do. However, the enemy doesn't have authority, but it does have weapons. It has weapons, and you have to know what the weapons are, right? See, the enemy doesn't really have power out here. If you think, oh man, the enemy caused the car crash, or caused cancer, they don't got that kind of power. Where do you think the enemy plays its game? In the mind. In the mind. This is why Tony Robbins' mentor said this: every day stand guard at the door of your mind. You must stand guard. And I'm gonna be real with you guys. I left the door open. I just left the door open, man. So, as every time when I get to a place like this, I start looking for answers because I know I can't stay here. I gotta get out, right? The Bible says this: ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. So I started asking and seeking. And let me tell you the message that I received. The message I received was this: remember what dreams look like. Remember what dreams look like. And there's no better way to figure out what dreams look like than one of the favorite book. Matter of fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to learn who I am, read this book. What book am I talking about?
The Alchemist.
The Alchemist.
Shoulder to shoulder.
If we haven't read The Alchemist, you know it's a story about a young boy named Santiago. He's a shepherd in Spain. And he gets a vision, he gets a dream, he gets a calling. But he doesn't think it's real at first. He starts kind of researching it. Is this really real? Is this what I'm supposed to do with my life? Am I supposed to give everything up and pursue this dream? Right? And that's a hard decision to make. So one of the foundational concepts of the book is called maktub. Okay? Matter of fact, if you look at my goal sheet, the title of it is maktub. Maktub is an Arabic word that means it is written. You got to understand that when you receive a dream or a calling, the story has already been written. The dream is done, but it does require you to pursue it. Okay? So you got to understand you got to understand the weapons of the enemy. The number one weapon of the enemy is that he's going to make you believe that's supposed to be rainbows and sunshine. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be more like this. The bullets are coming. The attacks are coming, and you have to know that the attacks will continue to come. And you have to stand guard at the door. And the number one weapon that the enemy uses is deception. That's what they do. They call the enemy the father of lies for a reason. They come up with these things. They put doubts in your mind. They put a fear in your mind. They might actually tell you that you're not worthy of success, that you're not worthy of love. Sometimes in really dark places, it'll tell you, you're not worthy of being here. This gentleman right here is named Jeremy Locke. Jeremy Locke is a certified badass, Green Beret, Special Forces, right? But he had a belief that he wasn't a worthy human being. Matter of fact, he only felt good about himself when he was on missions. But when he was off missions, dark place. Starts hitting the bottle, and he would just wait to go on the next mission. But what happens sometimes when a military veteran leaves the military? There's no more missions, right? Now, luckily, he met a young lady, and she was a missionary. And she was going to a lot of different places, right? And she was helping disaster relief. That was her calling, is to help people all over the world that were hurting, whether they were being trafficked or whatever, but Haiti and the disaster. And she found out, wait a minute, this guy's got $10 million in military training. He's actually good at these missions, right? And life was going better for him. You know, he had retired from the military, and you know, he would stop drinking for a while, but man, the demons would come back. And one night, he went out, and after being sober for a while, he went and got hammered, you know, and he woke up in the morning feeling lowest of low, had a million text messages from his girl, calls. He was afraid to pick up the phone and even talk to her, but he decided today was the day. Today was the day he was going to take his life, okay? So he said, I'm just going to end it, right? But he had a whole plan, because military guys have a plan.
Always.
Right? They have strategy. He said, I can't make this look like a suicide, because see, my mother tried to commit suicide, and then a few weeks later my sister tried because my mother tried. So I got to make it look like an accident so that they don't get the idea that they should do the same thing. So his whole plan was, I'm going to pretend like I'm cleaning my gun, I'm going to accidentally shoot myself in the femoral artery, and I'll just bleed out slow. And he said 2 things saved him that day. His little dog, his little puppy, walked in right when he was about to do it and just sat down in front of him and stared at him. And he's like, well, I can't have this dog walking through my blood when I do this, so let me pick the dog up and let me take him to the next room. The second thing that saved him was a message from his girlfriend. And she said, I don't know if I can be with you, but I just want to tell you that I love you and that I'm always going to be here for you. And that was it. He decided, not today. And ever since then, he never picked up the bottle. Okay? But it gets better than that, because he had a mission and a calling. Right? So I met him a few months back. I just saw him speak last week. Jeremy Locke. Amazing. And this is his girl right here, who is a rock star. This woman decided, because she had such a mission and a calling, that she was going to get into real estate to fund her calling. Made $30 million in real estate, bought an island to rehabilitate people who had been through these tragic things. That's what she did. But then she met this guy who's a Green Beret, and they fall in love. And she said, and he said, man, there's a lot of military veterans, special forces guys that are coming out and feeling just the same way that I did. So on this island, they repurposed special forces guys to go kick down doors and take down sex traffickers. And it's called aerial recovery, and this is what they do together. Mock tub. I'm going to talk to you about dreams and plans. See, when you have a dream, you're going to come up with a plan on how to achieve that dream. And you should come up with a plan and a strategy. And that's what the boy in the book did, right? Once he figured out, made the decision, I'm going to pursue my dream, he sold all his sheep, he got the money he needed. But you know what happens with plans sometimes, right? So he gets to North Africa because he thinks his treasure is at the Egyptian pyramids. So he goes from Spain to Africa. The first day he gets there, he gets robbed. All his money's gone. And now the doubts start creeping in. But I remember a line that Jeremy Locke, the ex-Green Beret, said. It was one of the hardest things. You're going to love this, Deontay. He said, no plan survives first contact. What that means in the military is that, hey, we come in with a plan, but when the bullets start flying, we got to pivot, right? So you know, Dolores is in the military, right? No plan survives first contact, but you can't give up on the mission. The plan might change, but the dream can't. Okay? So you got to know the difference between an attack and a test. Okay, remember, the enemy got no power out here. It's only in the mind. So you got to know what's an attack and what's a test. That was a test. But with any test, you get a little setback, right? So he got no money. He's sitting there in Tangiers, North Africa, and he says, okay, well, I got to get my money back. And he's already starting to give up on his dream. He's already thinking, like, I made it far enough. This is obviously a sign that I need to turn back, right? So I'm just going to make enough money in this old man's crystal shop, and then I'll get the money and I'll go back. So he actually builds a relationship with this old man, helps him make more money than he's ever made because he's just got new energy and new life. And he tells the old man, I'm just making enough money to go back. And once he makes the money, he talks to the old man who had himself given up on his dream. But he looked in the boy's eyes. He goes, no, you need to continue. You cannot turn back. And this reminds me, a couple of days ago, an agent came into my office. She said, I'm leaving the team, and I'm going back to school, and I'm going back to work at the nightclub. When she came to me a year and a half ago, she said, I'm not getting the fulfillment at school, and I hate working at the nightclub. And it was my hope, I hope that it's just a temporary setback. I hope she's not giving up on the dream because it got hard. Okay? So the enemy is so good, he'll make you forget what you believe in. What you yourself have said, what you yourself have written, it'll make you forget. Let me give you an example. I was just in Beverly Hills last week, and I was hanging out with this guy named Chris Voss. That's the guy in the middle. Chris Voss is a 30-year FBI hostage negotiator, literally the master of negotiations. After we do a little toast, he starts to complain to Nick about this guy who's remodeling his house, who got pissed at his assistant and now doesn't want to come back to the house and finish the job. And he's bitching about it and bitching about it, and I'm looking at this man, the master of negotiations, and I said, I think there's a book you need to read. I didn't tell him that because I didn't want to get pissed off.
Piss him off.
Right.
I would have told him.
Enemy's so good, he'll make you forget what you believe in. That's how good. But only in the mind. So let me talk about you, the dreams. Let me talk about the dream and the desert. Do you notice that there's always a desert in the story? That you have to go through the desert to get to the promised land. It doesn't matter what the desert looked like in the story, there's a desert, right? And when I was in that room, I was like, oh shit, I'm in the desert. That's where I'm at. I'm not in a dark, I'm in the desert. And this is what deserts look like. They're hard. They're really hard. Kind of like real estate, right? They're extremely lonely. Very lonely places the deserts are. And at night, they get extremely dark. And you just got to know that that's what you're in right now. Just because you're in the desert doesn't mean you're not on your way. You understand? Now, in the story, the boy had the luck of meeting a man at the beginning of his journey who looked like an ordinary man but turned out to be a king. The man told him a few things. He said, the world has a soul. Everything's been written by the same hand. And when you're in the pursuit of your dream, you will tap into the soul of the world. And the soul of the world is going to give you omens. It's going to give you signs. It's going to give you signs that you're going in the right direction. It's going to give you signs that this is the way that you should go. And so you might look at something and it means nothing to somebody else, but when you look at it, it's telling you something. Because the soul of the world is talking to you. Right? So I started to get signs. I started to open up. I said, I'm open now. Give me the signs, right? Literally the week that I was talking to my boy about being in the darkness, I go to church. And the pastor's talking about darkness. He's talking about being in the darkness. He tells a story. He says, I was riding through the Northwest with my wife, and it was dead of night. It was pitch black. And as we were driving down the road, I told her, man, I wish it was daytime. I wish the light was here, because behind that darkness, there's an incredibly beautiful forest. The most beautiful forest that you have ever seen. You just can't see it. And I left that service thinking, there's beauty even in the darkness.
Yeah, still there.
There's beauty even in the darkness. It's still there. It didn't go nowhere. You just can't see it yet. Okay? I got another sign. I was telling this to Mike. You know, I go on walks. This is how I clear my mind. Walks are therapeutic to me. So you might catch me walk. Matter of fact, Garrett, who's in the room or was in the room, caught me walking one day. I'll walk all through these neighborhoods. I'll be 3 miles from my house. You might see me walking, right? It's just therapy. But I was walking around Lake Eola, and I was going through my thoughts, and I was actually very distracted. I was on my phone. But it happened to be this amazing day. It's been raining a lot, but this day, no. This day, beautiful weather, sun was glistening off Lake Eola, the sun was shining. And I shit you not, I walked past a bench with a homeless man. He stands up and he looks me in the eye. He goes, "We pray for this."
Damn.
Wow.
He looked me dead in the eye. While I was looking at my phone, I just happened to look up and he goes, "We pray for this." And he smiled and I said, "Amen." Here's what I got from that. Here's this man going through some of the toughest times in his life, but he figured out a way to be grateful. But that's not the only thing that message gave me. I said to myself in my mind, I prayed for this. And I realized I'm in the dream. If I could just step out of the cloud, I would look around and see that everything that's happening right now is things I prayed for. Everything that happened right now are things that I prayed for, but I couldn't see it because I was in the dark, man. I was in the desert. And then finally, I got a sign and an omen from these boys. I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in a place called Lake Mary, Florida. And this is the Lake Mary, Florida Little League team. And they happen to be competing for the World Series of Little League. Lake Mary, Florida, representing the southeast of the U.S. And I was like, this is so cool. So normally I don't watch these games. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not watching Little League every year, but this year I'm watching it, right? And as I'm watching these games, I'm like, these games are incredible, right? So I watched the first game, they win. The second game they lose, I'm like, oh, it's over. But luckily, because I have friends that actually know sports, I called David. I was like, Dave, we out? He said, no, we ain't out of it yet. We ain't out of it yet. If these little boys win the next 3 games, they still make it to the championship. And I'm not gonna lie, I lost a little faith.
Win 3?
I was like, ah. Then game 1 happens. Game 2 happens, and I'm like, oh, they win. They win both of those games, and finally, game 3 happens, and they win it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to the championship. How could this even happen? And the message, the omen that I got was, keep fighting.
Yes.
You don't need to know more than that. If you're in the desert, your only job is to keep fighting. But I got some other omens from these boys. I don't know if you ever seen this in a professional baseball game or in the kids' games, right? When a coach leaves the dugout to go talk to the pitcher in the pitcher's mound, which, by the way, the pitcher is the most, that's not only the most important position, but you're literally on an island. The whole world is looking at you. These are 11, 12-year-old boys. And the fate of the game basically rests on how good you pitch. So when the guy comes out of the dugout, you know things ain't going good. Things ain't going good. 2 things are going to happen. He's going to have a stern talk with you, or he's going to pull you.
Yeah.
He's going to put another kid in. The coach for Lake Mary walks out to this young man, 11 years old, and before the coach could even say a word, the boy goes, I'm going to get us out of this. Like, he just looked at him dead in the eye and said, I'm going to get us out of this. And I'm like, look at this young man. Look at the faith that he has, the belief that he has, being watched by the entire world, and looks at his coach and said, don't worry, I got it. Another omen, right? Well, the boys won. The boys won. They won the World Series. Oh my gosh, it was amazing, bro. It was amazing. So I called my boy David again, because I don't know shit about sports. And I say, so that's it, we did it. He goes, no. There's another championship game after this. It's the Worlds. We just won the U.S. We're about to play Chinese Taipei for the world tomorrow. And I thought to myself, something Gil says, with new levels come
New devils.
new devils. See, there's always going to be another dream, guys. And the attacks are never going to stop. You got to understand that. So sure enough, here we are again in one of these crazy games. I mean, every single one comes down to the wire. These kids were down, they got back up, and there comes this moment, there's only 6 innings in the game, and now we're in extra innings, and the ball game is tied. This is for the world championship. The whole world knows these kids now. And the most magical thing that had happened in the past 2 weeks happened. See, they mic up the coach, so you can hear what the coach is saying to the kids. So he gathers the kids up in extra innings in the dugout to tie ball game. And let me tell you what the coach said to him. He said, what a story it's going to be, boys. One of the first days we got here, a man prayed over me. He saw my dad later and said, it's already been written. We're already champs. The Lord put it in his book. We're just going to finish the story. Right here, right now. And this is what it looked like.
He gets it down. Oh, it's perfect. Right there, he's gonna win the Series championship.
A bunt too, not even a no. Oh yeah, grand slam.
Mock tub.
Home run.
Yep.
One of the best.